Welcome to Critical DMG, a podcast about two best friends who might have grown up but never grew out of their love for the Game Boy. We will be playing and reviewing every North American title released on Nintendo's original handheld console. This is episode 20. I'm Tony, and it's about flippin' time we had another good puzzle game.
Oh, good? Maybe.
Oh, no.
We'll see. But yeah, this week we are talking about Flipull, an exciting cube game. Unclear if that's actually part of the title. We're probably just going to call it Flipull from now on.
There's no cubes in this game.
There are squares. The title screen says it's an exciting cube game. So with that, Tony, I think I know your answer to this, but would you recommend someone using the batteries to play Flipull?
I think so.
I'm just a Debbie Downer, apparently.
You are!
But I unfortunately would say no. I think this is probably the most middle of the road I've been on a game that we've played. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think I would have to say no, but we will get more into that as the episode goes on. Tony, tell us why Taito, the publisher, thought we should play Flipull and why they think we should like it.
Why it's an exciting cube game.
Exactly.
Okay. Firstly, I do want to say the back of the Flipull box is kind of difficult to look at.
Oh, yeah?
It's got this it almost looks like a 90s arcade carpet, except all one color. And it's just really difficult. It makes the text really difficult to read.
Is it like the bright kind of neon green yellow with little...
No, it's all yellow.
Okay.
It looks like a rectangle of cheese, and then it's got darker yellow like hatching all throughout it, and then black text. And so it's just really difficult to read the text on the box.
Yeah, so the game manual is the same way. I just slightly colorblind, so green yellow was my catch-all. But anyway, tell us what it says.
I will read it for everybody else's benefit. Flipull, don't get serious. Get into one of the gnarliest brain games around. Then use your reflexes and imagination to solve this wacky puzzle before time runs out. If you're fast, you'll get through all 50 levels, each one tougher than the last. But flip the wrong cube, and only your wits can save you. Bump matching cubes to open tricky puzzles, score bonus points with multiple cube hits. There are no cubes here. There are only squares.
Just imagine the cube. You're imagining the 3D space.
I'm imagining a third dimension. I'm entering the third dimension in my mind.
But yeah, Flipull, released in April 1990 by Taito, like we said, was the publisher. I couldn't find a whole lot. I guess it was a spin-off or a predecessor to Plotting, which was an arcade game. Is that correct? Or
well, Taito is definitely a known commodity especially in the earlier video game space. Taito is the company behind Space Invaders.
Oh.
As well as a lot of other stuff, Mr. Do, Kicks, and some other games, but most notably probably Space Invaders. So that's a pedigree coming to this game on this system, but it was also not a predecessor. I think it was a port of the game Plotting, which was released for the arcades by Taito.
Okay.
I did look into it, and I don't want to give too much of it away because I do have some of the information in the quiz for this episode. So,
oh, all right. With that, do you want to get into the mechanics?
I do.
All right. So this is a puzzle game. The goal is to clear a certain number of blocks, or squares, I guess, if Tony is really getting into the 2D nature. Yeah, not cubes. Controls, very simple. Up and down, move you up and down. A or B will fire your block, or confirm the action, I think is what the instruction manual says. And more or less what you're trying to do is match the different blocks. So as you shoot a block across the screen, it will intersect with similar blocks, and then you will get the block behind it that is of a different type. There are 5 different types of blocks, and you're just using that to get down to a certain number predetermined by the stage. Relatively simple, I guess. Tony, how was your gameplay? Did you get through all 50 levels? Did you play, I think 14-ish hours is what I saw for a complete playthrough?
Oof.
Was that you?
No, it was not. I played this game 3 different times, and for the life of me, I cannot get past puzzle 6.
Okay.
I always seem to stall out at stage 5 and 6. The way that the lives work in this game is that they're special blocks that can be used to get rid of any of the other existing blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And when you run out of those, you game over, essentially.
Yeah.
But you can get more. Sometimes they'll show up.
I think if you clear 5 blocks.
Is that what it is?
I think that's what the manual said, was 5 blocks and you get a special one.
Right. So they do show up again. So, you can get extra lives to come back, but it didn't happen to me very often. And I would always seem to run out right around the same spot because you get 2 or 3 of them per continue, and they don't replenish in between stages. So if you use up all of them because you get miss after miss and you don't make good moves or whatever, you trap yourself into a corner, you don't get more in the next level. You're stuck at 0. So you start the next stage with basically no mistakes you're able to make the entire time.
Exactly.
And so happened to me a lot.
And essentially the reason you use these is if you get a block that has no exposed blocks. So say you get a circle block and there are no circle blocks that you can hit with it, they'll call that a miss, and that's 1 life that it takes away. What it does is it gives you the special block, which can go through anything. So essentially a special block is like a wild card. It can be used for any block type, and that is how it kind of does the life counter. And yeah, once you've used up all your special blocks, if you get into a situation where the block you have is not a block that is exposed that you can clear, then it's game over. I had a similar experience. I think I got to level 7 or so. I think that took me maybe 12, 13-ish minutes. One of the things that I found is like I didn't really enjoy the mechanics and the gameplay. I felt like more often than not, I wasn't trying to solve a puzzle. I was just randomly shooting a block at things. And that maybe that's a skill issue and it's my fault. But yeah, I just didn't particularly enjoy that.
I read that the puzzles are random every time. Is that correct?
That's what I saw.
You don't get the same block layouts or anything. So you just have to get better at thinking about how to solve a puzzle like that, because there's no password or continue. So if you conk out at stage 7 or whatever, there's no way to get back there. You just have to do it all over again.
Yeah.
But one thing about this game that I think gives me a little bit more positive an opinion on it is that I sort of don't know how they did it. Does that make sense? Like, mechanically, watching what happens on the screen, which is to say, your little blob moving up and down, sure, I understand that part. And I even understand throwing the block and having it go across the screen, or, say, cornering and going down to the bottom part of the screen after it hits a wall or a ledge or something. I can even figure out how those sorts of things are going on. What I can't figure out is how they did the puzzle part of it. The random generation of the tiles, the way that it's not the block that you hit immediately that you are getting. Those are the blocks that you have to match, and the chain follows, and you get the block immediately behind that. Or you get the block that if you clear a line horizontally and it hits a wall and it falls to the bottom, you get the block that's right there that it lands on top of. And I would love to know how they did that. I want to say it was probably some sort of sub-mapping, maybe, where they were just controlling all of the different points on the grid that the puzzle's blocks are like lined up on, because obviously you can tell that they're arranged on a grid. They all move and are stacked exactly in orderly lines and things like that. So it's probably some like really, really detailed control over like the grid of puzzle, but I highly doubt I would be able to replicate something like that without doing some serious research or like outside coding to the engine to make that work, because it's really impressive to me.
Yeah.
I can understand the game's randomness or whatever potentially making the puzzles difficult to solve. You know, I don't know what kind of thing they did about that to make it like, how do you know how many circle blocks are going to show up? Or how do you know what the pattern of the blocks is going to be? So it could be really hard to solve in that way, but like, I just don't know.
I did hear that it was kind of randomly, or I guess see that it was randomly generated. I do wonder if it has, 50 levels that it pulls the block orientation from, because each level does have, I guess, two aspects. One is how the blocks are oriented, and the other is how the level is oriented. There's different walls, there are tubes, I guess, or tunnels that you can use in different ways. So I do wonder if it's pulling, okay, this block orientation is, we'll say, number 20 block orientation, stage number 2 or whatever, or if it is actually randomly generating the blocks that you have.
Right.
I would be definitely interested to see that. I have very little Game Boy coding experience, but I could kind of see it being like a, if entity matches entity, clear. If doesn't, that is your new entity. If entity equals wall, move down. So in different programming languages, I could see kind of a path to get to it. I just don't know if those work in Game Boy dev, because I don't know assembly. So
oh yeah, me either.
I will say this is probably one of the maybe the least intuitive games that we've played so far, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
As far as moving, the basic functions, very clear.
Yeah.
At first, I didn't quite understand if I was trying to clear all of a certain type of block or if it was a certain number of blocks. Turns out it's a certain number of blocks. But at first, I didn't really know if it was, you need to clear all of the X blocks or the circle blocks or whatever. So it was definitely one of, maybe one of the least intuitive. That it wasn't until I went and looked at the manual that I really thought, okay, yes, I understand how to do this. I understand what this game is trying to get me to do.
Yeah.
It didn't really help, honestly, my enjoyment of the game, but at least I could pretend that I was planning out my moves and things like that.
Yeah, I don't think that I ever felt that I was really getting a handle on it in the way that I was hoping that I would be able to.
Agreed.
There was definitely multiple times where I got a game over, came back to it, started the next run, and I would immediately make a wrong move because I was just not paying enough attention or not thinking it through, and I would either make the extremely basic mistake of throwing a block that does not match at the block.
Well, that doesn't actually cause a miss, right? It just gives the block back, which I do kind of appreciate. It's kind of just an embarrassing moment.
That's true. But I wouldn't pay enough attention to the puzzle layout, and I would throw, say, a circle block into another circle block, and then I would be returned with an X block, and I had nowhere to throw that X block, even though the puzzle just started, because I just wasn't paying enough attention to see that all of the X blocks were like
one deep or something. Yeah,
exactly. So I never grasped that like better understanding of the game, but I do feel like I could get there. If I did play more of it, then I could potentially understand the mechanisms well enough to not struggle through as many of these puzzles. But maybe it turns out that the reason that the speedrun clock or whatever is so long is because if you lose, you have to do it all over again.
Yeah, exactly. And I did watch a few speedruns of the Game Boy version of this. I think the only Game Boy version that is on speedrun.com is level 10. And I think it was like maybe a 8 or 9 minute speedrun. I don't really know. But watching the world record holder play through, I'm sure they had much more intuitive knowledge than I have. But I was watching them, and the entire time I was just like, yeah, they're just randomly shooting the cube, which again, clearly they were not, because they clearly have more information than I do. But yeah, I don't know. It just felt like the entire time was just a little bit of randomness, a little bit of just, I don't know, going through the motions for me. I'm completely willing to accept that that is a skill issue on my part.
I didn't have that same experience. Like, a lot of my time was spent just kind of staring at the board and like contemplating as many moves ahead as I felt like I could feasibly make. Like, okay, if I throw this block here, I will get this block back, which I will then be able to throw at this block because these blocks will fall. Because if I throw this block this way, then these blocks won't fall and I won't have a way to get to this block in the back. You see what I mean? Like, yeah. I was trying to make those connections like into the future, but you can only do that for so long because you do have a timer that you only get like 2.5 or 3 minutes or something for every level. So like, you can't sit and stare forever, but there is definitely a lot of sitting in one place and kind of just like looking at the squares for a little while before I even make a throw.
Yeah, I think my issue with that was, so when you replace a cube, the cube you shot stays in that spot. It doesn't move down the rest of the cubes. I wouldn't have accounted for that. And so I'd be like, okay, I have 6 steps of, my plan. And then on step like 2 or 3, I would have not accounted for that and then be like, okay, I guess my entire plan is now garbage because I didn't visualize that one thing. And typically at that point is when I would just like start shooting it because whatever. Again, very much so skill issue. But yeah, I don't know if I would want to play the game enough to get to the point that I just intuitively kind of got it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, where the mechanics weren't so much a problem as it was something you were able to understand enough to maybe get the enjoyment out of it that you're not right now. I get that.
Exactly. Yep. I think that's all I have on the mechanics. Very kind of simple gameplay, but do you have anything else?
No, I would say this is a deceptively simple one.
I would agree with that.
I'm ready to move on through the aesthetics because I think the wraparound, I will actually have more to say.
Yeah, let's do it.
Ad break.
Outlaws and ruffians have had it their way out in the Wild West for too long. But someone's coming to bring them to justice. And justice is colored green. Kero Kero Cowboy is a brand new platformer for the Game Boy Color and Analog Pocket. Our faithful peacekeeper is a frog named Kero Kero, on a journey to wrangle the Wild West's most dangerous outlaws and bring peace to the wide open plains. With a sticky tongue and his trusty 6-shooter, he'll face dastardly foes perilous platforming, and intense shootouts across deserts, mines, mountains, trains, forests, and beyond. Kero Kero Cowboy by Metagame Mike. That's Kero Cowboy. Out now on itch.io and coming soon to Steam. So giddy up now, partner, and help Kero Kero take back the West.
You know, the original Game Boy might not have been internet connected, but we sure are. So if you'd like to reach out to us, you could find us on Blue Sky at criticaldmgpod.bsky.social, or you could email us at criticaldmgpod@gmail.com, and either of those will get to us faster than you would expect for people who are stuck on tech from the 1990s. And we're back. I turned the music off in this one.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, no title music. I dislike that. I want there to be title music. And then the music in the game was just lacking.
I like that there's 3 different songs that they kind of like shuffle them up and repeat them or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But only one of them I really enjoyed enough that I let it play the first couple times that I heard it. By the time that I had gone back to the game to play it for my 3rd session, I turned the music off and just put my own music on or played with no music and sound.
Yeah.
You can't mute the music. I say turn the music off. Just for the record, you can't like mute the music here and leave the sounds going.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just muted the whole thing.
The sounds were fine. I didn't mind the sounds, but yeah, the music was just lacking. I was probably closer to being offended by it than liking it, so just put on your own music, and that's about it.
Yeah, you aren't missing anything by having no music or sound on this one, especially when the time is running down. The hurry up alarm,
mm-hmm.
which I'm not going to play here for anybody, is actually really annoying.
Yeah.
And while I do appreciate that they make the music go faster, which is just always a cute touch,
mm-hmm.
it doesn't make the music more enjoyable to listen to or interesting enough to leave it on.
I would say it makes it less enjoyable.
Oh, yeah? Okay, that's fair.
I had a very similar note. I liked that the hurry up music was there and that the music did get faster because, again, we've touched on it multiple times that anytime you can add audio cues, visual cues, like on kind of what you're supposed to do, it's a net benefit, I would say, for games. However, yeah, when your music is already kind of bad and maybe a little annoying, making it faster only makes it more annoying. So I appreciate that it was there, but also, yeah, I don't think that it added enough that you should play it without listening to whatever jams you want to.
And the rest of the sound is just there. Nothing to write home about.
Mm-hmm.
You could literally leave this entire thing on mute, and I don't know that it would diminish the experience really, which is sad to say.
Agreed.
I do, and I know I've said this before, look for puzzle games to have kind of like sleeper soundtracks sometimes, just because that's like historically a thing that's has happened before.
This one did not.
Yeah, it just didn't happen here. I do like the little blobby guy that you play as.
I was about to say the little goober is probably the best.
If you were to look up a definitional goober, that's what it is.
Yep. In my opinion, the highlight of this section is, the little dude that just throws boxes for some reason, which, getting on other puzzle games that we've played, zero story, as far as I can tell.
Nothing.
In this game. It's just, you're just doing it, which, again, I appreciate. I don't think puzzle games need elaborate stories. So I don't mind that it doesn't have a story, But yeah, you're just this little goober who's throwing boxes for reasons.
We've sort of committed with puzzle games here on Critical DMG that we want them to either be 0 or 100. It's either got to be no story, it just, you're doing a thing because it's a game and that's what you do, or the story is absolutely committed, makes no sense whatsoever, but it's charming and enjoyable to read anyway.
Exactly. Give me nothing or a tomato that causes all the problems on Earth. Like, one or the other.
Who also is rescuing his girlfriend.
Yeah, of course.
My favorite thing that the blob does is throw a fit when you lose.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
It's just like freaking out on the floor.
Yeah, like I said, the blob is probably the best aspect of this. Generally, the visuals are clean, easy to tell what's going on. Anytime you're like bouncing it off the ceiling, they give you an arrow so you can tell where it's going. I felt like everything was very readable, very easy to understand what was going on. I could potentially see them putting a horizontal arrow as well, because while it wasn't too hard to line it up, sometimes it was maybe a little confusing, but
I'm honestly a little surprised there isn't a horizontal arrow, because lining the shot up is kind of difficult when you're moving up and down for the horizontal shots, because you move in like half block increments or something, so you can like tip yourself just over the edge and you'll be on the next row up. So I would have really appreciated a horizontal arrow, actually.
Yeah, I would have as well, especially if you're trying to go fast. Again, I didn't have too many issues with my playthrough because I wasn't trying to go fast or anything like that. And worst case, you can count the blocks, but who wants to do that? So I do think it could have been slightly improved with a horizontal arrow, but also I wasn't like super upset that it wasn't there.
This one, there is not really a whole lot to talk about in the aesthetics section. Like there's actually a lot here mechanically.
Yeah.
And, we went over all of the different things that were of interest or we couldn't really explain and wanted to dig more into. Even though the mechanics are simple, the game has a lot of give, but aesthetically, there's almost nothing here. The blocks always look the same, which obviously they have to because that's the mechanics of the game.
Yeah.
But like, you're just doing the thing in these bricked puzzle screens. There's no story to speak of, with cutscenes or cute character moments or anything. It's just title screen, start, level, go. You do it or you don't. If you do it, next level. If you don't, the little blob throws a fit and you get a game over. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
There's basically nothing more to that other than occasionally they change the way the jagged sections of the level's roof are spaced out, or they add those tunnels that you mentioned earlier, but that's it.
Yeah, 100%. And somehow when I was thinking about this section, I was kind of thinking back to Tetris, which is it's just blocks on blocks and whatever. But I feel like somehow this game has less than Tetris did, which I don't quite understand that, because at least this has like a little blob that's moving around. But I feel like Tetris had more in this section, more creativity, etc. Whereas, it just felt not super inspired or not super like fun to look at. Or
I think that Tetris has feedback that really sets it over the edge when you compare it to this game, because the sound is honestly perfect in Tetris. The way that the blocks fall and the clack that they make or whatever is so good.
Yeah.
That it's not something that you want to stop listening to. And not only that, but you line your blocks up in Tetris, and when you make a Tetris and the lines disappear, you see them visually flicker on the screen and then they're gone. And it makes its own sound for that too.
Yeah.
That's its own little like celebratory moment. Whereas in Flipull, I never got any combos that were bigger than, I want to say, probably 4 blocks at a time. But as far as I know, there's no
fanfare.
Yeah, there's no moment apart from you get to see the score number show up, but it's not like it's bigger in a different font, like nothing happens that makes it feel like you've done a bigger line clear or given any sort of feedback that you are doing a good job or that, the game is, for whatever you're trying to be doing, appreciating that you are clearing these lines or whatever. Like the blob doesn't do cute little dances or make a cute face or hold up a little sign with a peace sign arrow, like nothing. There's nothing here. Mm-hmm. And I think that's even more disappointing.
Yeah.
Because unlike Tetris, this game's got a little blob and they have their own little mascot guy right there. And the only time it really feels like it's doing anything is when you lose, it throws a tantrum on the floor.
Mm-hmm. I think I hadn't really thought about it that way. But yeah, I think Tetris puts in a lot of kind of extra things that make it feel good when you do the thing.
Yes.
This game doesn't add anything when you do the thing. When you clear a bunch of blocks, you just get a block back. And yeah, I think that's a very good interpretation. And I think that's why I was kind of like subconsciously thinking Tetris felt so good and this felt so bad. Yeah, I think that sums it up very well. Exactly what you just said.
So saying that there's not really a whole lot to go on here aesthetically and taking this opportunity to do our wraparound while talking about these other puzzle games,
mm-hmm.
I think that a big issue that you specifically, but the show in general, is going to have with kind of all of the games that we play, but specifically these puzzle games going forward, is that we have played enough of them now that have done a variety of different things
mm-hmm.
that we're more easily able to compare them against each other. So even though we might not have liked every puzzle game that we have played so far, when you take this game that has nothing really in the way of like a defined personality or any sort of event moments or anything in the game that make it stick out,
mm-hmm.
other than just being a mechanically good puzzle game, looking at something that we didn't particularly care for a whole lot, which would be Sokoban, at least when you finished that, a puzzle in that game, you got to see your little guy do a little victory pose and make a digitized little and it happened every time you did that. Every time you did the puzzle. And that's something that gives you a moment with the little guy that you solve the block pushing
mm-hmm.
puzzle, and it rewards you with that. Quirk, same thing. You finish the puzzle there, you get to see Tammy Tomato, congratulate you or whatever.
Flashing lights.
The flashbang. Exactly. So for better or for ill, we are able to compare these games because we are going chronologically and we're playing every single one of them. We're able to compare these games against each other, and we've come up against this game now that what it has put in here, it just is not enough.
Yeah, I would agree. I guess wrapping back around to my initial recommendation, I would say no.
Mm-hmm.
I am sure there is someone who would love this game and would really enjoy it and kind of just click with it.
Oh, yeah.
If that makes sense. Maybe give it a try, but it's not a game that I enjoyed. It's not a game I clicked with, and I couldn't feel good about recommending it to people because it doesn't have, some of those redeeming features that some of the other games have. So that's my end statement is I'm sure there are people that click with this game and will love it. That's just not me.
In my hands, on my actual Game Boy, it would definitely be something that I could see just being pulled out to play in a short bursts, because the random generation does mean that the puzzles are not going to be exactly the same every time.
Mm-hmm.
So replayability is built in there, at least to that degree. And if I'm already not going to be listening to the music anyway, you know, say I was somewhere where I would want to have the music turned off or very low because of my surroundings or whatever, it's really not a detriment to the experience.
Yeah, you're not losing anything.
Exactly. And I feel that the mechanisms here are redeeming enough that it would make a really good handheld experience. So I would say it's worth the batteries, but...
So you're kind of landing on like a yes asterisk sort of?
I would say, you know, if you're a fan of interesting puzzle games and you want to play them on the Game Boy, you know, that's sort of always the caveat with these recommendations is, do you want to play this game and or a game like this made for specifically the Game Boy?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, we talked about at the beginning of the show that this is a port of an arcade game. Well, that arcade game is probably going to be colorful and maybe have the stuff that we are saying is not in this game. Those event moments and things like that would make this one, you know, maybe a step above where it is now. But that's not the game that we're comparing. That's not the game that we're reviewing and played. So if you are a Game Boy enthusiast, or you play a lot of games on handheld devices, mobile phone, retro emulator devices, that sort of thing, and you want to play a game like this, you like puzzle games, yeah, I think it's good. But, you know, we are a niche speaking within a niche, you know? And we love all of you. We love all of the listeners and everybody else, but we understand the slot that we fit in.
I think that means quiz time.
It is quiz time.
So, currently sitting at 78%. Last week did not treat me well, and honestly, I'm a little concerned about this week, but we'll see what happens.
I am removing the non-existent third dimension from my brain space, and I'm channeling all of my available abilities into you getting these questions right. Okay. Flipull quiz. Question 1. Taito, being the arcade and early gaming powerhouse that it was, is not above reusing its own game ideas in other forms as time goes by. It's not too wild that Flipull is just a renamed port of Taito's arcade game Plotting. It might actually go one layer deeper than that. Around the same time that Plotting was being released for arcades, another Taito game with very similar gameplay and design was being made and shopped around as well. This one was called Puzznic. While there were many similarities between the two games, which of these traits was wholly original to Puzznic? Was it A, there are blocks in it with different shapes on them? B, it has jaunty music playing throughout? C, you move blocks around a flat area to match them? Or D, it has the letter P in the title?
We're going to go with C, that you move blocks around.
Very confident with your answer there.
I think so. If I get this wrong, I'm going to feel bad, but...
It is C.
Okay, let's go.
Plotting and Puzznic both feature blocks with shapes on them, though they are not all the same shapes. They both feature chipper background tunes and the letter P in their titles, but only Puzznic has you moving around a flat playing field to match the blocks up manually. The, aesthetic isn't the same between the two of them either, even though they are kind of close. But there's no cute blob in Puzznic. It's just moving blocks around, kind of like a maze.
Okay. Honestly, that's kind of what I was expecting this game to be, but...
That's fair. First one down.
First one.
Question 2. Speaking of those blocks marked with shapes, though, one of them isn't really much to write home about when it comes to what it's supposed to be depicting here. The Taito blocks are supposed to represent the logo of their namesake company, but they just don't really do it for me. I can understand that it's hard to represent this particular logo on this tiniest of scales, but could you at least tell me what the Taito logo actually is? Is it A, a triangle with a swoosh in it? B, a winking smiley face? C, a sailboat riding a wave? Or D, a hot dog?
Oh, I love the D answers. It's a triangle, which I think they replaced the A with.
Yes,
yeah.
It is. It's A.
All right, let's go. Okay, prior knowledge actually coming in handy.
Right, yeah. The logo that we see in this game's promotional materials and like production text and stuff, which is the name Taito in all capital letters, and then having the A replaced with a blue triangle that's got like a little swoosh, like a streak for the horizontal bar. That was actually the logo that was adopted in the 80s, in 1988.
Oh, okay.
Before that, it was basically just the company's name in all capital letters without like anything fancy about the lettering. It was just Taito.
As you do.
And it was in this like angled marquee kind of thing. But yeah, you know, a lot more basic. I like the Taito triangle personally.
Yeah, I think it's good.
It does not look like that in this game. They just kind of look like a upside down T.
For sure. Oh, what does the manual call it?
Taito block.
It looks like a top hat, though.
It's supposed to be their logo. In the arcade game, it is the Taito logo. Like, it is the blue triangle with the swoosh or whatever, but like, it looks like a top hat or like an upside down T or something. It does not look like, it doesn't even look like a triangle. Anyway. All right. Let's end this one on a good note.
Let's do it.
Question 3. In a print ad for Flipull that claims it's, quote, guaranteed to Flipull your Game Boy, there's all kinds of game-related blurbs on the page to get you excited about swapping blocks around. However, another thing that Taito must have wanted people to get excited about back then was their perennial classic Space Invaders. A tiny little spat of text on the bottom corner of the ad page says, quote, also coming for Game Boy, Space Invaders, which sounds great.
Yeah.
But is it true or false that this announcement is way too early and we won't actually be playing Space Invaders until we reach our games for 1994?
Ooh. I feel like I'm so jaded about companies promising things and then not delivering.
We do get Space Invaders. It's just, will we get it before 1994?
When was the ad released? Sorry, It was
for Flipull, so this
okay.
Would have been an ad in 1990. Like, this is an ad for Flipull specifically, and on the bottom of that ad page it says also coming for Game Boy, Space Invaders.
I'm gonna say it was an early announcement. I'm gonna say it took at least 4 years to get Space Invaders. So, true?
Yes, and you would be right.
Let's go.
It was true. We will definitely be getting Space Invaders on the Game Boy here in the US, but we didn't get a version of it until 1994. And that's when the actually kind of highly regarded version that has Super Game Boy enhancements was released. But the Space Invaders, for our most favorite rectangle here, that came out in Japan only, is the one that they were probably alluding to. That one came out in 1990, so I don't know why we didn't get that one, especially if they were advertising that it was going to come out.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, we don't get Space Invaders until 1994.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it in... I don't know when is that in the...
Oh my God. I don't know.
Yeah, sometime in the
2020X.
Yeah, the 2030s, but fun stuff. All right. 3 for 3. Pretty good. Only brought my percentage up to 79%. So apparently going 0 for 3 is much more detrimental than 3 for 3 is beneficial, but
Stupid math.
Anyway, that brings us to our listener questions.
Yes.
Can you remind us what our listener question from last week was?
Yes. Okay. So last week, Fist of the North Star, 10 big brawls for the King of the Universe.
Of course.
That question was about how there is actually a prequel series to Fist of the North Star that ran from 2001 to 2010. And it follows the direct predecessor of Kenshiro from the original story. And I just wanted to know what the prequel series was called. Jeff?
Nope. No idea.
It was called Soten no Ken. So instead of Hokuto no Ken, it was Soten no Ken. And instead of, cards on the table, Hokuto no Ken actually means Fist of the Big Dipper.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense considering the scars on Kenshiro's chest and everything. Yeah. But Hokuto no Ken being Fist of the North Star, Soten no Ken is Fist of the Blue Sky. And this is a prequel series that also stars a protagonist named Kenshiro, except this one is a chain-smoking professor in Tokyo, and it takes place in the time before the nuclear wasteland era of Fist of the North Star. So it's like the lead up to what happened that made Fist of the North Star the toxic wasteland that it was.
Interesting.
I haven't read it, I haven't looked into it or anything, but it's supposed to have been pretty good.
Wonder if they went the same way that they did with Fist of the North Star, with like being very aggro with the gore and all of that. But if any of our listeners know, let us know if it was stylistically the same. But with that, what's the listener question for this week?
Okay, so Flipull wasn't just a Game Boy port of the arcade game Plotting, as if we haven't told you enough already to this episode. The game was also brought to the Famicom under the same title, but with all of the coloration that you'd expect from a game on that system compared to this one. And seeing the same little blob in both games, I can't help but compare the two depictions. While the Game Boy version is pretty obviously just some sort of amorphous little blob character, the Famicom version's color choices make it look more like something else. Round, shelled, and more likely to be found on a farm than stacking blocks. What does the Famicom version of Flipull's wiggly protagonist resemble?
Round, shelled, and on a farm.
It sounds like Blue's the answer to Blue's Clues. What does Blue want that's round, shelled, and on a farm?
Is it a clam? No. I might have an idea, but we'll have to wait till next week to see if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening to Critical DMG. If you would like to support us further, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts and maybe recommend us to a friend or anyone else you might know who would like the show. It really helps us out, and we appreciate it. So, that brings us to an end of Flipull, our fun, exciting cube game, I guess, as they would say. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Join us next week when we talk about Hyankyo? Alien? Did I say any of those correctly?
Hyankyo Alien.
Oh.
I know you don't know anything about this one.
Nope.
But I do. And all I'm going to say is, Boomer, welcome back.
Oh, I don't like that. I was excited about this, but anyway, join us next week when we talk about this game and see if it is like our favorite-ish pink dinosaur.
Yeah, it's been a very short span between direct comparisons here. So until next time, everybody, bye-bye.
Bye.